The blizzard howled outside the makeshift cave, a furious monster of ice and wind threatening to freeze anything in its path. Alex Ryder huddled against the rough stone wall, his breath forming small clouds that dissipated quickly in the frigid air. The emergency shelter he'd managed to construct from his crashed transport ship's debris offered minimal protection against Planet X's merciless weather. His heating equipment had been damaged beyond repair in the crash, and the temperature was dropping precipitously. 20 below and falling, he muttered, checking his wrist monitor. The device flickered, battery power dwindling. Perfect. Just perfect. Alex had survived 14 years as a transport pilot, exploring the furthest reaches of charted space. He'd navigated asteroid fields, outrun pirates, and even survived a close encounter with a solar flare. Yet here he was, about to freeze to death on an uncharted planet because of a simple navigation system failure. The irony wasn't lost on him. He pulled his emergency blanket tighter around his shoulders, knowing it wouldn't be enough. Without proper heating, he had perhaps 3 hours before hypothermia set in, and not much longer after that before. "Hello? Is someone there?" The voice startled him. Alex scrambled to his feet, hand reaching for the blaster at his hip, standard issue for frontier pilots, though he'd rarely had cause to use it. A figure appeared at the cave entrance, silhouetted against the swirling snow. As it stepped into the dim light of his emergency lamp, Alex's finger froze on the trigger. She was humanoid, but unmistakably alien. Her skin seemed to emit a faint blue luminescence, pulsing gently like the bioluminescent coral reefs of Titan's oceans. Her eyes were large, multifaceted like an insect's, and a deep violet color that reminded Alex of the Terran sunset. Her features were delicate, almost ethereal, framed by what appeared to be tendrils rather than hair, floating as if suspended in water. "You're human," she stated, her voice carrying a melodic quality unlike anything Alex had heard before. "I detected your crash landing. You're injured." It wasn't a question. Alex lowered his weapon slowly. "Just some cuts and bruises. Nothing serious." The ship, on the other hand. He gestured vaguely in the direction of the wreckage. "Who are you?" "I wasn't aware of any settlements on this planet. I am Lyra, xenobiologist of the Lemnian expedition." She approached with fluid grace. "There are no settlements here. Planet X, as your kind designation suggests, remains largely unexplored. I was conducting research when I detected your ship's descent." "Stranded like me, then?" Alex asked, unable to hide the skepticism in his voice. "Currently immobilized," she corrected, scanning the cave with those strange, multifaceted eyes. "This shelter is inadequate. The ice storm approaching will drop temperatures to lethal levels for human physiology." As if to emphasize her point, a violent gust of wind sent a spray of ice crystals into the cave, causing Alex to flinch. "Tell me something I don't know," he muttered. Lyra tilted her head, studying him with scientific curiosity. "Your core temperature is already dropping. Without intervention, you will experience hypothermia within 2.7 hours. Alex stared at her. "How can you possibly know that?" "Lemnians can detect thermal signatures," she replied matter-of-factly. "I have a solution, though you may find it culturally uncomfortable." She unslung a pack from her shoulder and removed what appeared to be a tightly rolled bundle of shimmering material. "A bioresonant sleeping system," she explained, unfurling it. The material seemed to shift and flow like liquid silver, yet maintained its form. Lemnian technology. It maintains optimal body temperature regardless of external conditions. Hope flickered within Alex. "That would certainly help." "There is a complication," Lyra continued, her tone unchanged. "The system requires biothermal synchronization to function at maximum efficiency. Skin-to-skin contact is necessary." Alex blinked, certain he had misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "Physical contact. What humans might call cuddling," she clarified, utterly pragmatic. "The system needs to calibrate to both our biometrics simultaneously." Alex felt heat rising to his face despite the cold. We've just met and you're..." "Alien," Lyra supplied. "Does that present a problem?" The alternative is your likely death from exposure. Put that way, it seemed ridiculous to refuse. Still, Alex hesitated. Where I come from, that level of intimacy usually comes with certain social contexts. Interesting, Lyra noted, as if mentally filing away this cultural observation. Lemnians prioritize survival over social constructs when necessary. If it helps, consider it a medical procedure rather than an intimate act. Another blast of freezing wind howled through the cave, and Alex shivered involuntarily. His survival training kicked in, overriding his social discomfort. All right, he conceded. What do we need to do? Lyra efficiently laid out the sleeping system. Up close, Alex could see intricate patterns woven into the material, reminding him of circuit boards or neural networks. Remove your outer garments, but retain your underclothes for thermal regulation, she instructed. I will do the same. With numb fingers, Alex stripped down to his thermal underwear, acutely aware of Lyra doing the same nearby. Her body was slim but strong-looking, with the same faint blue luminescence as her face. The anatomical similarities to humans were striking, despite the obvious differences. Now, we enter together, Lyra said, holding open the sleeping bag. Awkwardly, Alex slid in beside her. The material immediately conformed to their bodies, creating a perfect cocoon. As Lyra moved closer, pressing her back against his chest in a position humans might call spooning, Alex felt an immediate rush of warmth. The sleeping bag began to pulse with soft light, matching the rhythm of Lyra's skin. System is synchronizing, she murmured. Should be fully functional in moments. But Alex was distracted by a different sensation, a faint tingling where their skin made contact, almost like a mild electric current, but not unpleasant. It felt as though something was flowing between them, an invisible connection forming. Do you feel that? He asked quietly. Lyra was silent for a moment. Interesting, she finally said. There appears to be some form of bioenergetic resonance occurring. Unexpected, but not concerning. An intriguing reaction. Is that normal? Not typically, she admitted. But interspecies contact is rare among Lemnians. It bears further study. Despite the strange circumstances, the warmth of the sleeping bag and the exhaustion of the day soon began to overtake Alex. The last thing he remembered before drifting off was the gentle pulse of light from Lyra's skin, synchronized perfectly with the sleeping bag, and that strange, subtle connection between them, like a whisper in his mind. Outside, the ice storm raged on, but within their shared cocoon, warmth and an unexpected bond began to grow. Morning came with an eerie silence. The storm had passed, leaving behind a transformed landscape of crystalline beauty. Alex awoke slowly, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar warmth and weight against his chest. Lyra was still asleep, her luminescence dimmed to a soft glow in repose. The awkwardness he had expected to feel was curiously absent. Instead, there was a lingering sense of that strange connection he'd felt the night before, a thread of awareness binding them together. It wasn't telepathy. He couldn't read her thoughts, but rather a vague sense of her presence, her emotional state. Lyra's eyes opened suddenly, all facets focusing at once. "You're awake," she stated, immediately alert. "The storm has passed. We should move soon." She extricated herself from the sleeping system with efficient grace, apparently unbothered by their close proximity. As the connection between them thinned with distance, Alex felt an unexpected sense of loss. "That thing I felt last night," he ventured as they dressed. "Is that normal for your species?" Lyra paused in her methodical packing. "No," she answered after a moment. "It is not. Lemnians can form bioresonant connections, but typically only with other Lemnians and usually only after deliberate cultivation." She studied him with renewed interest. The spontaneous formation of such a link with a different species is unprecedented. Should I be concerned? It warrants observation, not concern, she replied. The connection is weak, barely perceptible. It will likely fade with time and distance. Alex wasn't entirely sure how he felt about that prospect. As they prepared to leave the cave, Lyra suddenly froze, her posture tense. She crouched, examining marks on the cave floor that Alex had overlooked, unusual indentations that seemed to shimmer faintly. "We need to move," she said, her tone sharper than before. "Now, what is it?" Alex asked, immediately on alert. "Evidence of a technoparasite," she replied, gathering her equipment with increased urgency. "Recent, within the last few hours." "A what?" Lyra hesitated, then sighed. "I haven't been entirely forthcoming, Alex Rider. I am not stranded here by accident." She straightened, meeting his gaze directly. "I am tracking a dangerous life form, what we call a technoparasite. It's a hybrid entity, part biological, part mechanical, with the ability to assimilate technology and complex energy sources. Your ship's distress beacon likely drew it to this area." Alex stared at her, processing this revelation. "You're telling me you crashed here on purpose?" "To hunt this thing." "To study and contain it," she corrected. "My crash landing was controlled, designed to create a containment zone or research opportunity. The technoparasite is an evolving threat to both our civilizations." Before Alex could respond, a metallic scraping sound echoed from deeper in the cave system. Lyra grabbed his arm. "We need to run. Now." They burst from the cave into the blinding whiteness of the ice-covered landscape. Behind them, something moved in the shadows, something that seemed to flow rather than walk, with glinting metallic surfaces that caught the light. "What's the plan?" Alex gasped as they sprinted across the treacherous terrain. "Distance and higher ground," Lyra replied, her breathing controlled despite their pace. "I have equipment that can neutralize it, but it needs preparation." They fled across the alien landscape, the frozen beauty of Planet X, now seeming sinister rather than majestic. The technoparasite pursued them, sometimes visible as a mercury-like flow across the ice, sometimes disappearing beneath the surface only to emerge ahead of them, forcing changes in direction. Working together, they navigated the hazardous terrain. Alex's frontier survival training complemented Lyra's knowledge of the planet's peculiarities. When Alex slipped on a hidden ice sheet, Lyra caught him with surprising strength. When they encountered a crevasse too wide to jump, Alex fashioned a makeshift bridge from debris from his crash. Throughout their flight, that tenuous connection between them strengthened incrementally. Alex found himself anticipating Lyra's movements, sensing when she was about to change direction or stop. From her reactions, she was experiencing the same phenomenon. After hours of evasive maneuvers, they reached a jagged outcropping of rock that offered some defensive advantages. As they paused to catch their breath, Lyra removed a device from her pack, a sleek, cylindrical object with pulsing light patterns similar to those on her skin. "A sonic nullifier," she explained. "It can disrupt the technoparasite's ability to maintain cohesion." "But there's a complication." "Of course there is," Alex muttered, keeping watch for their pursuer. "The device needs to emit a precise frequency to target this specific parasite," Lyra continued. "It requires calibration through what we call harmonic brainwave resonance, a synchronization between two compatible neural structures." Alex turned to look at her. "And let me guess, we happen to have compatible neural structures." "It appears so," she confirmed. "The connection we experienced in the sleeping system was the first indication. Such compatibility is exceptionally rare between different species. It's almost statistically impossible." "Lucky us," Alex said dryly. "What do we need to do?" "Physical contact again, but this time with deliberate mental focus," Lyra explained, already setting up the device. "We need to deepen the resonance temporarily." As she worked, Alex kept scanning their surroundings. "You mentioned your people have rules about this kind of thing. This resonance is what we're doing. Allow." Lyra's hands paused momentarily. "Lemnian protocols regarding cross-species resonance are strict. Such connections are considered potentially dangerous, both physically and culturally. They are heavily regulated at best, prohibited at worst. So you're breaking your laws to save us?" "I'm making a field decision based on unprecedented circumstances," she corrected, but there was a new tension in her voice. The rules exist for valid reasons, but they never anticipated this specific scenario. The sonic nullifier now pulsed with a steady rhythm. Lyra positioned it carefully, then turned to Alex. "We need to establish contact and focus on the connection between us," she instructed. "Try to mentally reach for the resonance you felt." They sat cross-legged, facing each other. Lyra took Alex's hands in hers, and immediately that subtle connection flared stronger. It was like a circuit completing, a rush of awareness that extended beyond his own consciousness. "Focus," Lyra murmured, her multifaceted eyes fixed on his. "Feel the rhythm of our connection. Don't fight it." Alex closed his eyes, concentrating on the sensation. It was unlike anything he'd experienced, not quite telepathy, but a deep harmonic resonance between their minds. Images flashed through his consciousness. Alien landscapes he'd never seen, strange cities with architecture that defied human understanding, mathematical concepts that seemed to dance at the edge of comprehension. From Lyra's sharp intake of breath, she was experiencing something similar with his memories. The sonic nullifier began to pulse more rapidly, matching the rhythm of their shared consciousness. The light from both the device and Lyra's skin intensified, bathing the outcropping in a blue glow. "It's working," Lyra whispered. "Maintain focus." The resonance deepened further, transforming from a trickle of connection into a flood. Alex felt as though he was simultaneously himself and part of something larger, a composite consciousness that retained individuality while transcending it. Just as the intensity threatened to overwhelm him, the nullifier emitted a high, pure tone that seemed to vibrate through reality itself. The resonance between them stabilized, no longer increasing, but maintaining a profound connection. "It's calibrated," Lyra announced, though her voice seemed to come both from her lips and from within his own mind. "Now we wait." They didn't wait long. The techno-parasite arrived as a flowing mass of metallic liquid and organic components, surging up the rock face toward them. Up close, Alex could see that it wasn't a single entity, but a colony of nanoscopic machines and biological cells working in perfect, horrifying unison. Lyra activated the nullifier. The device projected a field of visible sound waves that distorted the air. When these waves reached the techno-parasite, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The entity convulsed, its cohesion failing. Parts of it solidified, while others liquefied further, creating a discordant mass that could no longer coordinate its movements. "It's working," Alex exclaimed. But even as the parasite retreated, a new concern emerged. The nullifier was emitting a secondary signal, a powerful broadcast that pulsed outward beyond the atmosphere. "Lyra, what's happening?" Alex asked, still connected enough to feel her sudden spike of alarm. "The resonance signature," she said, her multifaceted eyes widening. "It's stronger than anticipated. The nullifier is broadcasting it as a side effect." She quickly shut down the device as the parasite retreated beyond range. "This is not good." "Why? What does that mean?" "It means we've just announced our presence, and more specifically, our resonance, to anyone monitoring such frequencies." She began packing up the nullifier with urgent movements, including Laminian command. "Isn't that good? Your people can rescue us." Lyra's expression was grim. "Not just command. There are factions among my people. One in particular, the Purity Cadre, considers any cross-species resonance to be a contamination, a threat to Laminian genetic and cultural purity. They monitor for such signatures constantly. And they'd consider us a threat?" Alex asked, incredulous. "They would consider you a contaminant to be eliminated and me a deviant to be purified," Lyra stated flatly. "We need to move." Now, as they descended from the outcropping, the lingering resonance between them conveyed Lyra's concern more effectively than words could. Alex sensed layers of cultural context, historical baggage, and personal fear that she wasn't verbalizing. "There's more you're not telling me," he said as they trekked across the frozen landscape. "I can feel it." Lyra was silent for several moments. "The resonance between us shouldn't be possible," she finally said. According to all Lemnian science, our neural structures are too different for such synchronization. Yet here we are. Yes, which suggests either our understanding of resonance is flawed, or she hesitated, or there is some historical connection between our species that has been forgotten or deliberately obscured, she finished quietly. Neither possibility would be welcomed by certain elements of Lemnian society. Before Alex could pursue this line of thought, a new sound cut through the air, the unmistakable hum of spacecraft entering atmosphere. They looked up to see a sleek, silver vessel descending through the clouds, its design unlike anything in the human fleet. Elegant and organic in form, it nonetheless projected an aura of power and precision. Lemnian Command, Lyra confirmed. Standard patrol vessel. They've detected our signature. Friend or foe? Alex asked, hand drifting to his blaster. Neither, until proven otherwise. Commander Kalen leads this patrol. He is a rule follower, but not unreasonable. Her expression betrayed concern nonetheless. However, if the Purity cadre intercepted our signal as well. The Lemnian vessel touched down with barely a sound, settling on the ice 100 meters from their position. A section of its smooth hull flowed open like a liquid membrane, and 3 figures emerged. They wore what appeared to be form-fitting armor that pulsed with the same bioluminescent patterns as Lyra's skin, though in different colors and configurations. The central figure, taller than the others, removed his helmet to reveal features similar to Lyra's, though more angular and with luminescence that tended toward green rather than blue. Researcher Lyra, he called, his voice carrying easily across the distance. Protocol requires you to approach for identification and debriefing. Lyra tensed beside Alex. That's Kalen, she whispered. Be respectful, but vigilant. Let me do the talking. As they approached the Lemnian patrol, Alex could feel the resonance between himself and Lyra shifting, becoming less prominent, but more focused, as if preparing for some unknown challenge. Kalen's multifaceted eyes widened slightly as they drew closer. Interesting, he said, his gaze moving between them. The resonance signature we detected, it emanates from both of you. Commander Kalen, Lyra greeted formally. I can explain the circumstances. I should hope so, Kalen replied. Cross-species resonance bonding violates at least 12 Lemnian protocols, and with a human, no less. His tone wasn't hostile, merely perplexed and concerned. It was unintentional, Lyra explained. A survival necessity that revealed an unexpected compatibility. Kalen gestured to his subordinates, who produced scanning devices. Standard procedure requires isolation and containment of both parties until the resonance can be evaluated and potentially severed. Alex felt Lyra's alarm through their connection. Is that necessary? He asked. When not hurting anyone. Kalen regarded him with scientific curiosity. You're experiencing the full effects of the resonance, then? Fascinating. Most non-Lemnians wouldn't even notice it. He turned back to Lyra. You know the protocols? Researcher. The human must be contained for study, and you must report for evaluation. Before Lyra could respond, a new sound pierced the air. A high, keening wail that seemed to cut through thought itself. From behind a distant ridge, a smaller vessel appeared, its design similar to the patrol ship but darker, with red bioluminescent patterns that pulsed aggressively. Purity cadre, Lyra breathed, her fear spiking through their connection. How did they respond so quickly? Kalen's expression hardened. They shouldn't be here. This is a command operation. He turned to his subordinates. Establish a security perimeter. The smaller vessel didn't attempt to land. Instead, it fired, not conventional weapons, but concentrated bursts of the same sonic energy the nullifier had produced, though clearly weaponized. The blast kicked up explosions of ice and rock. They're trying to separate us, Lyra realized aloud as one blast struck between her and Alex, momentarily disrupting their resonance. The sudden severance was painful, like a string being plucked within his mind. Chaos erupted across the ice field. Kalen and his patrol responded with their own weapons, elegant rifles that fired pulses of energy that distorted space itself. Alex drew his blaster, though it seemed primitive in comparison. "Alex," Lyra called over the cacophony. "The resonance, they're targeting it specifically." She was right. Each attack seemed calibrated to strike where their connection was strongest, causing disruptive interference patterns. Through the lingering bond, Alex could sense her racing thoughts. They were calculating something, reaching a conclusion. "Commander Kalen," Lyra shouted, "the cadre aren't just trying to separate us. They're trying to prevent us from discovering something." Kalen, taking cover behind a rock formation, looked skeptical. "What are you talking about?" "The resonance shouldn't be possible," she insisted, "unless there's a historical connection that's been hidden. The cadre knows something." Another blast rocked the ground between them. Alex was thrown backward, landing hard on the ice. The impact should have stunned him, but something strange happened instead. The resonance with Lyra surged, as if responding to the threat. He found himself moving with unnatural speed and precision, dodging a follow-up blast that would have struck him directly. Across the battlefield, Lyra was experiencing something similar. Her movements became fluid and predictable to Alex, as if they were executing a choreographed dance rather than fighting for their lives. Through their connection, a wordless plan formed. They began moving in tandem, converging on the patrol ship. Kalen, recognizing their intent, provided covering fire. The cadre vessel adjusted its attack pattern, trying to cut them off, but the strengthened resonance between Alex and Lyra made their movements too coordinated to intercept effectively. They reached the patrol ship, and Lyra immediately interfaced with its control systems, literally. She placed her hand on a panel, and the bioluminescent patterns of her skin synchronized with those of the ship. Alex felt the echo of this connection through their resonance, a cascade of information too alien to fully comprehend, but somehow familiar in structure. "I'm accessing the restricted archives," Lyra announced, her voice strained. "The ship's AI is resisting, but our combined resonance is creating interference patterns it isn't programmed to counter." Images and information flooded through their shared consciousness, fragments of data, historical records, scientific equations. Most was incomprehensible to Alex, but certain patterns stood out with unmistakable clarity. Genetic sequences showing unexpected similarities between human and Lemnian DNA. Historical records of an ancient project called Convergence, with most details redacted. References to a third species, identified only as the architects, who had apparently interacted with both humans and Lemnians in the distant past. "This is impossible," Kalen breathed, watching the data stream across the ship's displays. "These archives are sealed at the highest levels." "The resonance is acting as a decryption key," Lyra explained, her multifaceted eyes wide with shock. "It's revealing what's been deliberately hidden from both our peoples." A particularly powerful blast from the cadre ship rocked their position. Lyra broke contact with the control panel, the flow of information abruptly ceasing. "They know what we've discovered," she said grimly. "They'll never stop pursuing us now." Kalen stood frozen, visibly processing the implications of what he'd witnessed. His rigid adherence to protocol warred with the scientist in him, the seeker of truth. "Commander," one of his subordinates called urgently. "The cadre is calling for reinforcements." "We're outnumbered, sir." Kalen's inner conflict resolved visibly. "Prepare for immediate departure," he ordered. Then, to Alex and Lyra, "You're coming with us. Whatever this resonance is, whatever truth it's revealing, it needs to be properly investigated, not buried by zealots." They boarded the patrol ship just as the cadre forces began a coordinated assault. The vessel lifted off with remarkable acceleration, breaking atmosphere within minutes. Once in orbit, Kalen turned to them, his expression troubled. "What you've discovered changes everything," he said. "If humans and Lemnians share some ancient connection, if our separation was deliberate rather than natural evolution, the Purity cadre's entire ideology collapses," Lyra finished. "Their influence within command, their power over policy, All of it is based on the supposed fundamental difference between species. We need to broadcast what we found, Alex insisted. To both our peoples. Kalen hesitated. That would cause chaos throughout the Lemnian systems. And the cadre has agents everywhere, even aboard this vessel, potentially. Then we need a more targeted approach, Lyra suggested. The resonance allowed us to access encrypted data. Perhaps it can also allow us to transmit directly to those who need to see it. The central relay station, Kalen said after a moment's thought. It's the nexus of all Lemnian communications. If you could access it directly, bypass the standard protocols. We could broadcast to the entire High Council simultaneously before the cadre could intervene, Lyra concluded. But it's the most heavily guarded facility in Lemnian space. Then we'll need to be creative, Alex said, feeling the resonance between them strengthening with their shared purpose. And we'll need to use this connection between us to its full potential. They plotted a course for the central relay station, located in a heavily protected area of Lemnian space. The journey would be dangerous. Kalen was essentially committing treason by helping them, and the Purity cadre would undoubtedly be marshaling their forces to intercept them. As the ship accelerated to faster-than-light travel, Alex found a moment alone with Lyra in a small observation chamber. The stars streaked past in luminous ribbons, beautiful and terrifying in their implication of distance. If we succeed, he said quietly, what happens to us? To this. He gestured between them, indicating the invisible bond they shared. Lyra's multifaceted eyes studied him, her bioluminescence pulsing in a pattern he was beginning to recognize as contemplative. I don't know, she admitted. No Lemnian has maintained a cross-species resonance for this duration or intensity. There's no precedent. She paused. Does that concern you? I'm more concerned about what happens if we're separated, Alex confessed. The connection between us. It feels significant. Important somehow. Perhaps that's why it was hidden, Lyra suggested. If humans and Lemnians can form such bonds naturally, it suggests a level of compatibility that contradicts thousands of years of isolationist policy. Through their resonance, Alex could sense there was more. Personal feelings she wasn't articulating, uncertainties and hopes that mirrored his own. The initial awkwardness of their first meeting, the clinical necessity of shared survival, had evolved into something far more complex. Whatever happens, he said, I'm glad we share that sleeping bag. A ripple of amusement flowed through their connection, accompanied by the slight brightening of Lyra's bioluminescence that he now recognized as her version of a smile. As am I, she replied, though I suspect neither of us anticipated the consequences. The ship's communications system interrupted them. We're approaching Lemnian space, Kalen announced. Prepare for potential interception. Their journey to the central relay station was fraught with close calls and tactical maneuvers. Kalen's knowledge of patrol protocols allowed them to evade most Lemnian security measures, while the strengthening resonance between Alex and Lyra provided increasingly unusual advantages, from enhanced reaction times to the ability to interfere with Lemnian technology that relied on similar resonance principles. When they finally reached the central relay station, a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns visible from thousands of kilometers away, they faced their greatest challenge yet. The station was surrounded by a defense grid and staffed by personnel loyal to command, many of whom would have been influenced by Purity cadre ideology. We can't fight our way in, Kalen stated as they observed the station from a concealed position. And my authorization won't get us past the outer checkpoints, not now that we've been flagged as rogue. We don't need to fight, Lyra said, her eyes fixed on the station. The entire facility operates on resonance technology, with our combined signature amplified through the nullifier. We could create a system-wide harmonic disruption, Alex finished, the idea forming simultaneously in both their minds through their connection. Force a reboot that would create a temporary access window. Kalen looked between them, disconcerted by their synchronicity, but impressed by the strategy. It might work, but you need to be much closer within the outer sensor perimeter at least. They developed a plan. Kalen would create a diversion using the patrol ship, drawing attention to one section of the defense grid. Meanwhile, Alex and Lyra would approach the station in a maintenance pod, using their resonance to mask their life signs from the sensors. As they prepared for the mission, Alex checked his blaster one last time. "I still can't believe this started with sharing a sleeping bag." Lyra adjusted the nullifier, which they had modified to amplify their resonance rather than disrupt the technoparasite. "The universe often hinges on such small moments," she observed. A crash landing, a storm, two compatible minds finding each other against astronomical odds. The maintenance pod launched, a tiny vessel against the vastness of space and the imposing structure of the relay station. As they approached, their resonance intensified further, both of them consciously strengthening it, exploring its boundaries and capabilities. Through the connection, Alex shared memories of Earth, its oceans and forests, cities and deserts, the chaotic diversity of human culture. Lyra reciprocated with images of Lemnian worlds, cities that seemed grown rather than built, societies organized around principles of harmonic resonance, art forms based on bioluminescent patterns too complex for human eyes to fully appreciate. The exchange wasn't just personal. It was becoming a testament to what could be gained through such connections, a living counterargument to the purity cadre's isolationism. They reached the outer sensor perimeter just as Kalen began his diversion. On the opposite side of the station, the patrol ship conducted a series of erratic maneuvers, drawing security vessels away from their approach vector. "Now," Lyra whispered, activating the modified nullifier. Their combined resonance surged outward, an invisible wave that interfaced with the station systems. Through their connection, Alex could perceive the complex network of the facility, not visually, but as patterns of harmonic resonance, vibrating strings of connection and communication. The disruption spread through the station like ripples in a pond, creating cascading system failures that triggered emergency protocols. Automated systems initiated a station-wide reboot, creating the window they needed. They docked at an emergency maintenance port, now accessible due to the system reset. Inside, the station was in controlled chaos. Emergency lighting cast everything in a pulsing red glow, and personnel rushed to restore critical systems. Using their resonance to predict patrol movements and interfere with security scans, they made their way to the central broadcasting chamber, a vast, spherical room lined with transmission equipment. At its center stood a crystalline structure that pulsed with complex patterns. "The harmonic core," Lyra explained. "It can transmit to every Lemnian communication device simultaneously, at a level that can't be blocked or filtered." She approached the core, placing her hands on its surface. Alex joined her, their fingers interlacing. The resonance between them flowed into the core, which responded by pulsing in matching patterns. "We're in," Lyra breathed. "The core recognizes our resonance as an authorized transmission pattern. It's a vulnerability they never anticipated. Through their connection and into the core, they began to transmit everything they had discovered. The genetic similarities between humans and Lemnians, the references to the mysterious architects, the evidence of deliberate separation and hidden history. But more importantly, they transmitted the experience of their resonance itself, the proof that such connections were not just possible, but potentially transformative. The transmission rippled outward, reaching every corner of Lemnian space. In that moment, Alex could sense countless minds receiving the information, confusion, shock, and wonder rippling back through the network. Some rejected it immediately, their beliefs too entrenched to accept such radical new information. Others opened themselves to the possibility, especially when they experienced the echo of the resonance that Alex and Lyra had included in the transmission. "They're receiving it," Lyra whispered, her multifaceted eyes wide with wonder. "All of them." Even the chamber door burst open. A squad of Lemnians entered, their armor bearing the distinctive red bioluminescent patterns of the Purity cadre. Their weapons were drawn, faces set in grim determination. "Desist immediately," the leader commanded. "You are spreading corrupted data." and unauthorized resonance patterns. Lyra didn't remove her hands from the core. "It's too late," she replied calmly. "The transmission is complete. The truth is out there now, being analyzed and verified by thousands of scientists across the system." The cadre leader's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "Truth? You've merely exposed a historical anomaly that will be contained and contextualized appropriately. The purity of our species remains our highest priority. Is that why you hid the evidence of our common history?" Alex challenged. "Because it threatened your power structure?" The leader's attention shifted to him, contempt evident in the harsh pulsing of his bioluminescence. "Humans cannot understand the complexities of Lemnian society. Your primitive emotional responses and cultural contamination are precisely what we've worked for millennia to protect ourselves against. Yet here we stand," Lyra countered, "sharing a resonance that your ideology claims is impossible. Living proof that your fundamental assumptions are flawed." The standoff was interrupted by a new arrival, Kalen, accompanied by several officers bearing the insignia of Lemnian High Command rather than the Purity Cadre. "Lower your weapons," Kalen ordered. "By authority of the Science Council, these individuals are under my protection pending full investigation of their claims." The cadre leader hesitated, calculation evident in his posture. "This goes beyond your jurisdiction, Commander. The containment of deviant resonance patterns falls to the Purity Cadre by ancient charter. A charter that may have been based on deliberately falsified historical records," Kalen replied evenly. "The Science Council has reviewed the initial transmission data and found sufficient cause for a comprehensive evaluation. Stand down." For a tense moment, it seemed the cadre forces might resist. Then, reluctantly, they lowered their weapons. "This isn't over," their leader warned. "The Council will see reason once the initial shock passes. Millennia of separation cannot be undone by one anomalous resonance pair." "Perhaps not," Lyra acknowledged, "but it can begin a conversation that's long overdue." As the cadre forces retreated, Kalen approached Alex and Lyra, who still maintained contact with the harmonic core, their resonance sustaining the transmission network. "You've created quite the disruption," he observed dryly. "The entirety of Lemnian society is in an uproar. Reports are already coming in of spontaneous resonance attempts between Lemnians and the few humans in our trade zones." "Are they succeeding?" Lyra asked eagerly. "Some are, to varying degrees," Kalen confirmed. "Nothing as strong as what you two have developed, but enough to confirm that it's not a singular anomaly." He paused. "The Earth governments have also received the transmission. Their response has been mixed." Alex wasn't surprised. Human history was filled with similar reactions to paradigm-shifting discoveries. "What happens now?" he asked. Kalen gestured to the harmonic core. "You can release it. The transmission is self-sustaining at this point. As for what happens next," he shrugged, a surprisingly human gesture. "That remains to be determined. The Science Council wants to study your resonance directly. The diplomatic corps is frantically preparing for unprecedented human-Lemnian negotiations. And the Purity Cadre is facing internal fracturing as some of its members confront evidence that contradicts their fundamental beliefs." Alex and Lyra stepped away from the core, though their resonance remained strong between them. The connection had evolved during the transmission, deepening in ways that were difficult to articulate, but impossible to ignore. "And us?" Lyra asked, giving voice to the question in both their minds. "What is our role in this new reality we've helped create?" "That's for you to decide," Kalen replied. "You could remain as subjects of scientific study, helping us understand the full potential of cross-species resonance. You could serve as diplomats, bridging the gap between our worlds. Or you could simply live as the first officially recognized human-Lemnian resonance pair. The possibilities stretched before them, as vast and complex as the cosmos itself." Through their connection, Alex could sense Lyra's mixture of excitement, apprehension, and hope, feelings that mirrored his own. "Whatever we choose," Alex said, "we do it together." Lyra's bioluminescence brightened in agreement. "It seems fitting. After all, This journey began with a simple offer to share a sleeping bag and ended with reshaping the relationship between two civilizations, Kalen added. The universe does have a certain ironic elegance. In the days that followed, the repercussions of their discovery continued to unfold. The Purity cadre, while not disbanded, found its influence significantly diminished as evidence continued to mount supporting the ancient connection between humans and Lemnians. The mysterious architects remained an enigma, though joint research initiatives were established to uncover more about this third species that had apparently influenced both human and Lemnian evolution. Resonance research became the most rapidly growing field of study across both civilizations. While not all humans and Lemnians could form strong connections, many could establish at least basic resonance, suggesting that the capacity was more widespread than initially believed. For Alex and Lyra, the path forward was not immediately clear. They were simultaneously celebrities, scientific curiosities, political symbols, and simply two individuals bound by an unexpected connection. The pressures from various factions to use them as figureheads or research subjects were constant. One evening, as they stood on an observation deck of the central relay station, watching the stars and sensing each other's thoughts without needing to speak, Lyra finally gave voice to an idea that had been forming between them. "We could leave," she suggested, gesturing toward the endless expanse of space. "Not run away, exactly, but forge our own path. There are countless worlds yet unexplored, mysteries to uncover. We could establish a joint research outpost, investigate the architects independently. A human Lemnian initiative outside the direct control of either civilization," Alex mused, warming to the concept. "We could create a space where others like us could gather, experiment, learn. A place where resonance bonds could develop naturally, without political pressure or scientific scrutiny," Lyra continued. "A living laboratory of what's possible when we embrace connection rather than fearing it." The idea resonated between them, growing stronger as they both contributed to its shape. Kalen, who had become their ally and advocate, helped secure a ship, an advanced hybrid of Lemnian and human technology. Others joined their cause. Scientists from both species who were fascinated by resonance potential, diplomats seeking new models of cooperation, even a few former Purity cadre members whose exposure to the truth had transformed their perspectives. The day of their departure arrived with little fanfare by their own choice. They had given enough interviews, participated in enough studies, and navigated enough political complexities to last several lifetimes. Now, they sought a different kind of discovery. As their ship prepared to depart from the station, Kalen approached them one last time. "The Science Council is still hoping you'll reconsider," he informed them. "They're offering unprecedented research support, full autonomy within the program." "We appreciate the offer," Alex replied, "but we need to do this our way. The resonance between us, it's not just a scientific phenomenon to be studied. It's something lived, experienced. Something that needs space to grow naturally," Lyra added, "without the weight of representing entire civilizations." Kalen nodded in understanding. "Keep in communication when you can. Your discoveries may still help guide our mutual path forward." He hesitated, then added, "The technoparasite is still out there, along with whatever other surprises the universe holds." "We'll be careful," Lyra assured him. "And we're better equipped to face those challenges together than either of our species would be alone." As their ship broke orbit, accelerating toward the uncharted regions of space, Alex and Lyra stood together on the bridge. Through their resonance, they shared a wordless appreciation for the journey that had brought them to this moment, from a desperate survival situation in an ice cave to the threshold of a new chapter in interspecies relations. "It's strange to think," Alex remarked as the stars streaked past in luminous trails, "that none of this would have happened if you hadn't offered to share your sleeping bag." Lyra's bioluminescence pulsed with amusement. "The most significant diplomatic breakthrough in our species' histories, begun with a practical solution to prevent hypothermia. I doubt the historical records will emphasize that detail. Perhaps they should, Alex replied. Sometimes the most profound connections begin with the simplest acts of kindness. Their ship accelerated to faster-than-light travel, carrying them toward unknown worlds and undiscovered truths. Behind them, two civilizations grappled with the implications of their shared past and potential future. Ahead lay mystery, danger, and discovery. And between them, the resonance continued to grow, a bridge between different worlds that had begun with an alien girl offering to share her sleeping bag with a human, and had become something that neither of their species had words to fully describe. Yet,